right. What's up, guys and girls? How's everybody doing?
Good.
Man, this is great.
Even Eric.
We're finally here.
Even Eric.
Oh, yeah, everybody. Man, nice.
Well, Brandon, a nice little recent surge here in recruiting, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Just kind of update us on recruiting moving forward, and especially with you guys not allowing any official visits until the fall, it might have been expected that with your patience it was going to be a little slower for you guys as far as signing a bunch of guys right away, or committing a bunch of guys right away.
Yes, sir. Well, I think that, obviously our recruiting is always about the relationships and getting guys on campus. I mean, that's what our job is as coaches, to get them on campus. And obviously we haven't been able to do that until recently, get them on campus. And so we knew it was going to be a little bit slower as far as maybe some of the guys that might be committing to us. But once we get a chance to get them on campus and get them around us and just get to know them and get to know the families, it usually has a little bit of a trigger effect. And fortunately, we've had some momentum right now with a couple guys committing to us, and great guys, and more importantly, great people and great character. And so I think you'll see here in the future too, here in the next coming months, that we'll have some more guys, coming on board. So we're excited about it.
Now that we're back to in-person recruiting, what did you maybe take away from the COVID year of recruiting, and maybe some of the things you had to institute into how you went about the process that you just decided, hey, that really worked out well, I'm just going to add that to the repertoire moving forward?
Yeah, obviously we had to learn how to use technology first off, and just be able to be as creative as we possibly could in regards to just getting to know these kids. Like I said earlier, just so important that we're around them and be able to shake their hands and that sort of thing, and we weren't able to do that. So we had to be creative, and a lot of Zoom calls, obviously, and just I think what we learned too is that these kids, some of them, will make some decisions before they really dive in and get to know us in person. And so some guys came off the board just because of that situation, and we're fine with that, because I think the most important thing for us is that making sure Coach Sweeney gets to meet these guys and be able to make sure we develop that relationship in person. And so we missed out, a few guys just because they were a little bit more ready to make a decision, even though they might not have been able to visit places as much. So that was a little surprising, at least from my point of view, that some guys were ready to make a decision and they haven't really spent a whole lot of time with the coaching staff and being on campus and being with some teammates.
Everybody is worried about depth. They're talking about depth in the quarterback room, losing Bubba. Now you may be a little bit thin. How concerned are you, and kind of what is your plan heading into the season concerning, there's not a lot of experience behind DJ, and even Hunter doesn't have a whole lot.
Yeah, really not concerned. I'm really excited. I think we're gonna have 5 guys that I feel really good about. I mean, obviously there's a lot to do. It is a little more thin than most years, but as you all recall, the year that we won the national championship in 2018, after that 4th game, after losing Kelly, it was Trevor and Chase and Ben Batson, and then it was Hunter Renfro. So it was 2 guys that you felt good about, but we're gonna be deeper this year. Now it's a matter of getting them ready to play, obviously. So obviously losing Bubba, we lost that number, obviously, a little bit more depth. Coming in June is very, very hard to learn the offense and be very, very comfortable with it. But I've been very impressed with Will Taylor and also with Billy Wiles. And I think both those kids are going to be capable and going to be able to help us. And obviously, you got DJ, who has more experience than Trevor did going into Trevor's freshman year when we won the whole thing. So I really feel I'm really not concerned. I'm more anxious and more ready because I know I have enough guys. I have 5 guys that we're going to be able to work with, and they're all eager and willing to learn and get better. And I really haven't seen the 2 freshmen do anything yet because we haven't started practice yet. So, but I've heard they're doing very well. And then, I think the last thing I'd say is, as a freshman, the biggest thing is how fast can you learn it and be comfortable to be able to manage and just, get us in the right play and just be able to, manage the operation. And I think I have two guys that are smart enough to be able to do that. So I think we're going to be fine. And I'm just anxious and excited to work with these guys and see what we got at the end of camp.
Did y'all take a serious look at the portal? Like how involved was that?
We did not.
Did not.
No, we did not. No, I think it's such a, as y'all know, Coach Sweeney's in our program's philosophy on that. We just really feel that, letting these guys earn it that are here and rewarding them for their hard work. And so we're really trying to avoid that as much as possible. So I never contacted anybody. And so, we might have had a few conversations about it, but it was nothing that was something that was serious at all.
Do you feel like you have someone that can be that Chase Bryce type guy that can come in and be a confident backup, or is that something you're hoping to develop throughout camp?
Yeah, no, I really do. I think there's a couple guys that don't have much experience, but neither did Chase have much experience until that Syracuse game, So, Chase did something special in that game, and the team rallied around him and that sort of thing. We have guys on this team that are capable of doing something like that for sure. And I know Taisun is a guy that, is improving daily, and he's getting better and better. And I really feel like, he's going to be back sooner than we think. Sometime during this season, he can be back. And so I really feel like where his mindset is right now, he's doing a great job of getting ready as fast as he possibly can without rushing it, And then Hunter Helms, I'm telling you, this kid from Columbia that's been here for a year now has really done a good job of really understanding this offense. And, man, he's as smart as any of the guys in the room right now as far as just knowing it. And that's the biggest thing, like I said earlier, as a young guy. And that's the first step, is just really understanding and knowing this offense inside and out. And that allows you to play faster. That allows you to perform at a better, at a higher rate. And so he did a good job. He got in there a handful of times last year, and so he's got a little bit of experience. And then, like I said, there's two young guys that are going to be here too, and I feel really good about them, at least where they are right now. I'm just anxious to get started with them,
Do you have like a time frame goal for Taisun, or does he have a goal that you're
No, there's no time frame. This injury is obviously, a lengthy injury. So I just know that he's doing very well. He's working his tail off. I'm really proud of Taisun, As you guys know that, he's been through a lot in the last year. He's had his house burned down, grandparent pass away, broke his hand, out for COVID protocol, and then getting COVID in the spring just when we needed him to really be around, and missed a handful of practices in the spring, and then obviously this injury the last day of spring. But I'll tell you what, he's really learning some life lessons, and he's really maturing. This kid is a great kid and just anxious to work and get better, and he's really been able to develop toughness about him because he's had this adversity and he's learned to overcome some of these adverse things that's happened in his life. And so I'm really anxious for him to get back. I know he is too. So just really proud of where he is right now.
DJ got a lot of reps in the spring, so now with these new guys coming in, how do you kind of divvy that up once fall practice starts to make sure that not only does he get the work that he needs and Hunter, but these new guys get the work that they need?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 5's a good number, really, as far as going into camp. That's what you normally would like to have, 5 guys in camp. Plenty of enough arms so that they don't get worn down. But like you said, DJ needs to get his reps, but at the same time need to monitor and make sure that he's not overthrowing. And we also need to get some other guys ready to go, obviously. So it's going to be really important that I do a good job of making sure the right guys are in there and making sure that they're getting enough reps so that because we all know it's all about developing by getting reps. The more experience you get, the more examples you can teach off of, and the more that they can learn from. And so I've always been able to do a good job of really rotating those guys and giving everybody an opportunity, to shine out there. And so it's going to be important to do that. And at the same time, like you said, DJ's got to get his reps with the ones and still can have that consistency with those guys and be on the same page. Very, very important.
What was the plan for?
Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, what was the plan for DJ this summer, and how did you guys challenge him? Where did you want to see him improve, and then what kind of feedback have you got?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, DJ's going into his second year, so I always want to challenge him and all the other quarterbacks in improving in their leadership. It's a new role for DJ now. He's not the backup. He's the guy. So it's very important that he takes a step forward in the leadership department. And one of the things that we do in the summer is we do our skills and drills, which are player-led practices. And it's a really, really cool experience for those guys, especially my quarterbacks, because they have an opportunity to grow as a leader because they're in charge of it. And they're in charge of making sure that the session is going smoothly and they're on pace and all those things. And so his leadership is going to be critical as we move forward. He's such a nice guy. Everybody loves this kid, and he just needs to be demanding. That's another thing. He needs to hold himself accountable first, which he's done a good job of, and then he needs to hold this team accountable. And that's hard to do when you're such a nice guy. It's hard to, you don't want to step on toes, but. So I've challenged him in that part of his leadership of holding guys accountable and really, stepping up in that department. Obviously, there's plenty of things physically that he can work on. Obviously, getting stronger, getting faster, making sure his weight isn't too much. He's a big kid. He doesn't have a whole lot of body fat. It's just a big kid, and so. But he has to really do a good job with his nutrition and just making sure that his weight doesn't get too high, because I want to see him be explosive. And everybody's a different type of runner. He's a really good athlete, smooth athlete that can really hurt you, not just with his arm, but also with his feet. And so I really challenged him to keep his weight down and be able to be more explosive. And so those are some things that he's definitely working on this summer. And from what I've heard, he's doing a really good job.
I think Dabo said in the spring that he's a gunslinger, and how do you guys, I guess, manage that, letting him air it out when he wants to, but also staying within the system?
Yeah, that's always a challenge as a coach, is to, see what you have at that position. What type of player is he? How smart is he? What kind of decision maker is he? And then, like you said, this kid has the strongest arm that I've ever coached. And so, and he feels that. He has confidence in that, which is very positive. The challenge for him and what I've been able to express to him is making sure he plays within the system, being disciplined within the system, and then the plays will naturally come. From guys from Deshaun Watson to Trevor to Kelly to all those guys that have been starters here, they've all had different aspects about their game that made them shine. But the most important thing is that they play within the system. Once they play within the system, then they can do their own thing, as far as making those plays when something breaks down or whatever the case is. So we're still in that process as we go through preseason camp of just, knowing exactly what he feels most comfortable with, and then as he gets more comfortable with that, we can kind of give him the reins a little bit more and more, just like we did Trevor.
Was the arm strength, right off the bat, strongest arm you ever seen?
Pretty close, yeah, it was. I mean, we knew he had a heck of an arm. I mean, he was a pitcher in part of his high school career, was throwing really, really high in the 90s, and just the first time he came to camp, watching him throw live, it was pretty clear that he does have a very strong arm, and it's a challenge to him sometimes to put some tempo on the ball where doesn't need to be too strong. He needs to really tempo his release and not try to overdo it because he's got such a strong arm.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, personality-wise. He's, I think, a good bit different maybe than Trevor was. I don't know how much of it is the Southern California kid versus the Georgia kid. But
yeah.
How does that personality, and particularly from the quarterback position, impact sort of the greater offensive approach and culture?
Well, first off, you got to be a likable guy, I think, to help with the leadership part of it, and both Trevor and DJ have those qualities. They're very likable. The whole team, are really like DJ. And he could go into any position room and fit right in. And so what Trevor did a good job of his second and third year is holding some guys accountable when he needed to. Neither of them are super vocal guys. They lead by example, and DJ has been able to lead by example. And so what Trevor did is, like I said, his second and third year, he became a little bit more vocal and communicated with them in a little bit different way and challenging these guys. And that's what DJ needs to do these next couple of years in order for his leadership to affect this whole team. And but everybody respects DJ. He puts in the work. There's no doubt about it. And that's the first and foremost. That's what you look for as far as leadership is by doing it by example.
Has there been some moments from this offseason where you've sort of seen him kind of come into his own a little bit now that there's not sort of the shadow of Trevor there?
Yes,
too?
absolutely. I think and we're very limited with time around him, but just watching him interact with the rest of the guys, you can tell that he has freed up himself a little bit more as a leader and has been a little bit more vocal. And so I'm just going to continue to challenge him to influence his teammates each and every day. And these skills and drills that he's running, which are these practices that are led by the quarterbacks and some of the seniors, from what I understand, he's done a really good job of pushing the envelope there and really communicating very well with guys so that everybody's on the same page and holding guys accountable and those sort of things.
I know the guys that have committed and the guys you've signed previously from IMG Academy have been mostly defensive guys, but if you as a guy that recently headed up recruiting here, how is the IMG Academy just different? I mean, is it completely different than a normal high school setting or when you're down there, or just the feeling of the kids that come out, or is it similar, or what kind of stands out? Because you guys seem to have really establishing kind of a pipeline to there, right?
Yeah, I've never been there. So I've never had that area, and I've never had a quarterback that I recruited from there.
Right.
But obviously, from what I understand and from talking to the other coaches or listening to them talk, very unique place as far as training and getting guys, ready to go with great competition and that sort of thing. And so, I think it's a place where, there's sometimes there's reasons to go there and sometimes there's not, and everybody's got a different situation at their high school. And but I've heard a lot of good things about the program, obviously.
Brandon, did you personally ever find it tempting at all to just take a peek at the transfer portal and see what kind of quarterbacks might be in there?
Just by the news. I've just hearing the news, but never really dove into it at all. Now, Danny Pierman is in charge of our scouting department, and so he has looked into it just because we have to be ready no matter what happens. But we never really got in. I never really could memorize the guys that are in there, other than what I heard in the news. So once again, it's so important for us in our culture, that we want to reward the guys that are here and recruit the roster that we have here, because that's what's going to help us win games, and they deserve it because of all the hard work. Everything we talk about is earning it, and so it's so important that we allow these guys to go earn it, whether it takes them 1 year or 4 or 5 years like Cornell Powell to push through and continue to persevere, throughout the tough times when you might not be the guy, but continuing to work and learning to earn everything. And so that's what we talk about all the time, and it's such a big part of our culture. And so, we really didn't look into it in detail at all.
What's your comfort level with QB2 relative to what it's been in the other years since you've been back here as an assistant?
With what now?
With the backup quarterback situation.
Yeah, obviously it's an important position, and it's the hardest position because, as coaches, we want these guys to prepare like they're the starter. We always talk about preparing like you're the starter, and it's hard if you're really not the starter. And it's also hard, you never know when you're going to have to be the starter. And it could be the last day. It could be, in DJ's situation with Trevor last year, it was a couple days before the game. So it wasn't so that's something that the coaches talk about all the time, is try to be prepare like the starter. So it's a hard position. But I do think that, like I mentioned earlier, that the situation that we're in today, I feel good about as far as having numbers, having guys that can go play, or at least have guys that I can go get ready to play. Are they all ready to play right now? No, but that's what preseason camp is about. Whereas we did have Chase Bryce, who was a little bit more experienced in 2018, but not much if you really think about it. He was still young. That was only his second year, So when you look back at, that's a comforting year to look back to, because we did so well and we have very few guys. It's not something we want to be accustomed to and do every year, but I do feel good about these guys and where their heads are, especially mentally. And then the leadership that I have in that room, I think, is going to help these guys perform at a high level.
Coach, that being said, is there any more sense of urgency with Will and Billy coming in, just because it's an unusual situation with a true freshman being their third-string guy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's their role is going to be critical as we move forward. Will Taylor is a guy that has played this position his whole life, and yet he brings other aspects of the position that really none of our other guys have. Taisun has a lot of athleticism, obviously, but with him being out right now, Will Taylor has all kinds of athleticism. He's got a great arm, obviously baseball guy too, so has had to learn how to do two sports at a high level. And so his game, he can go into a game, we feel, at least that's what we're anticipating, and him not be overwhelmed by a situation. He's kind of that gamer guy, that goes in there and can make something happen. And so I'm anxious to work him this preseason, obviously getting him plenty of reps. Same thing with Billy Wiles. I'm very impressed with Billy. Mentally, from what the guys are telling me, that he's doing a heck of a job of really, really grinding in the film room and understanding. And like I mentioned, that's going to be the first and foremost thing that they have to do, is really learn this offense and that way that they can go out there and play faster. And so Billy's a great looking kid. He's a 6'3", 215-pound kid. So he's another guy that I'm really, really anxious to work with this preseason, and very much could be a big part of what we're about this year.
Is there someone you feel like is the number 2 right now going into the fall camp, or is that something that's going to be a battle?
Right now, it's Hunter Helms. Yeah, Hunter Helms has deserved that, has earned that. Just because Taisun would be, obviously, but we just don't know his exact timeline. But so Taisun, but Hunter Helms going into that first preseason camp, he's going to be our number 2 guy. But it's all competition. Everybody's got to re-earn their spot. DJ has to re-earn his spot. And it's so important that they do that. And my guys have done a great job of always encouraging each other and not really holding anything against the next guy in the room. They've done a great job of being positive throughout the competition, because they all know that there's a ton of competition, and the best guy is going to play. It's very simple, and everybody understands that. So right now, Hunter Helms would be that guy.
What were your thoughts going into the MLB draft, and then how were you kind of thinking or hoping it might play out, and then what did you think?
Yeah, that's the most I ever followed an MLB draft. I learned a ton of stuff. Bradley LaCroix and Monty Lee has caught me up on all that stuff, and it's very tricky and still confusing. I don't understand all the money and the contracts and all that stuff. I just know that kind of the time frame, and just talking to Bubba and Will about this thing, and just not really not trying to put too much pressure on them, because they already feel the pressure. And to be honest, in both of their situations, it's a win-win situation, and they're in I kept telling them, man, just continue to feel blessed for what you have an opportunity to do, no matter what you decide. And obviously Bubba had a great opportunity, and took it, and wish him well and wish him the best. And we've had great conversations after the fact, and with his family and everybody, and obviously they're excited. And then Will, just excited about him having an opportunity to go, yet knowing and understanding how special this experience could be, playing at a major college for football and baseball, and having enough confidence in himself to, hey, I'm ready to put this aside and go do what I dreamed about doing my whole life, and then pick back up wherever it is, you know, whether it's Major League Baseball again or NFL or whatever the case is. So I'm really excited about that situation. But it was definitely a little stressful that day, trying to figure out, all right, who's going to be in my room in a couple weeks, you know. But we all know God has a plan, and those two kids did a great job of really trying to formulate that plan and figure out what the best thing is for them and their family.
Brandon, you talked about culture a minute ago. Since you've been here at Clemson, the demeanor and your work ethic on the sideline with your quarterbacks and that group, when they come on off that field, you're always there to greet them. You're always there to talk with those guys. It seems like you guys are all locked in on that. Explain how you get those guys to buy into that whole process. You know, because you see a lot of kids come off the field, they don't even go to their coaches. They walk off to the bench. The quarterback, since you've been here, they come straight to you as soon as they walk off the field, and you guys go right to talking up what you saw the last play.
That's right. It's all about communication. I mean, obviously, that's the first and foremost things that you try to teach these guys is to be able to communicate. And it starts in practice, being able to communicate the right way, being able to explain what you see on the field, and being on the same page with your coach. And I always tell these guys, it's so important for DJ or whoever's playing to think like Coach Elliott and think like Coach Streeter as fast as you can, meaning like how fast can you learn this offense and truly be on the same page as us, so that I know and Coach Elliott knows when he calls a play, I know exactly what he's looking at, and I'm making the decision in my mind and he's making that same decision. And so first and foremost, that's so important that there's that trust factor between player and coach. And then what you're talking about on the sideline is so critical to me for us to communicate immediately after a series. And I want to know what he saw, and I want to talk about each play. Absolutely. And so we'll go to the sideline, get on the he'll get in his chair, and I'll go through each play, and I'll ask him what he sees, and I'll tell him what we saw and what defense that we saw. Why did you decide to make that decision? And a lot of times playing quarterback, I mean, there's reasons to do a couple different things, and so there's not always just one right answer. RPO. So sometimes there's a gray area that, hey, as long as you're making a full speed decision, I can live with that. And as long as we're taking care of the football, we can live with that. And then let's make it a teachable moment for these kids on the sideline. And our whole job as a coaching staff is to help these guys on game day. Absolutely, during practice, we got to make it hard on them. On game day, it's our job to make sure that we help them in any situation and not make it confusing for them. And so I just feel like the communication piece on the sideline is critical, and it starts in practice. And that way we're on the same page. And there's a comfort level with our guys and me, and that's got to be the case. You know, they got to tell me what they see, and hey, let's learn from it. So that's very important.
How do you build that rapport, though, the personal rapport that you get with those guys to get them to trust and buy in like that?
How do I?
Yeah.
Spending time with them, not talking about just football. You know, talking about life. That's why I do this job. You know, that's why we all do this, is so that we can help these young men grow in every area. And so we do so many things as a program outside of X's and O's. And I think it means a lot. I know it means a lot to these kids, and they know that we care about them and that we don't just think about them as football players. They're way more than just football players, and so that's important. That's important that they get that, and so that allows that trusting relationship. That allows guys to open up to us as coaches, and it's important for us as coaches to be transparent as well. We're not perfect. We're going to admit when we screw up. I mean, that's very, very important for them to see us do that. And that allows them to be free to do that as well. And that way we can move forward and learn and grow in a relationship.
Brandon, is there a tangible, noticeable difference in DJ's mindset this year compared to last year when he knew he wasn't the guy? This year he knows he's the guy. I mean, would you know the difference if you just walked up upon him this year compared to last year?
I think a little bit for sure. I think this spring, you know, he carried himself just differently, you know, just not knowing that he is the starter. Obviously, it's just a different demeanor that he has. He's still DJ. I mean, he's still an unbelievable nice kid, and just everybody gets along with him. I think a little bit more of a confidence factor because he knows that he's the starter and he has a lot of influence on all of his teammates. So just that sometimes some of our interactions, you can just tell that he's got that confidence about him and he's excited about the opportunity, like most guys would whenever you become the starter, obviously. But yeah, I see a little bit of a change in him for sure.
Thanks, Coach. Guys, we got to have Robbie Caldwell come over as soon as he gets off radio. It is 8:30.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Here real fast,
Yeah.
just one more question.
Yep.
I'll meet you around.